Welcome to Pick Up and Deliver, the podcast where I pick up my audio recorder when I step off the train and deliver an episode to you while I walk home. I'm Brendan Riley. Well, good afternoon, listeners. It's Friday, October 5th, 4th, something like that. And I'm walking home on a very cloudy afternoon. It looks like it could rain any moment, but I don't think it will. If it does, worry not. I have an umbrella with me. It's my most dapper looking umbrella with a curved handle and makes me feel like an old guy to have it. So today I thought I would talk to you about, or my subject was inspired today by a Board Game Geek post, as many are. And this was, I don't know, it feels almost like trolling, but I don't think it was. A member of the Secret Cabal Board Game Guild came in there and posted a thing that essentially said, the movie Clue sucks. Then he talked about for like a good 2 paragraphs about how much he disliked the movie Clue and he didn't get why people thought it was so good and blah, blah, blah. And I posted a sort of funny GIF showing that I disagreed and was scandalized by his comment. But that made light of the way that post actually made me feel, which was legitimately angry. And I was thinking about why that post made me feel legitimately angry. What do I care if this other person doesn't like a movie I really like? A couple of people kind of said, you know, maybe your post should instead say, I don't like this movie, rather than this movie sucks. You know, couching something as part of an opinion versus a statement of fact is interesting to me, but it got me thinking about uncontrolled reactions that intellectually I knew not to care what this random person I've never met thinks about a movie I really like. But in my gut, I was mad. And it got me thinking about that experience that we have in games, which I think of, or I have called, getting salty. I will admit to some due diligence here, or lack of due diligence. I did not look up in the history of the podcast whether I have done an episode on this topic before. So if I have, and what you're hearing is a bunch of repeat nonsense, I apologize. But such is the life of the podcaster who plans on a train ride home and then records while he walks. I did not do my due diligence. That said, I wanted to share 5 different times that I have, 6 different times that I have felt kind of salty in games, and talk about what that experience in particular is that made me feel that way. So if you don't know what I mean by feeling salty, it's the sort of gut reaction of upset or anger that comes when you're playing certain games and something happens. Most importantly, it, for me, is a feeling that I can't really control and overwhelms my intellectual brain, which honestly doesn't really care if I win. I mean, I like to win and I want to try, but there are times when something happens in a game where I will feel mad and I never throw anything or knock the table over, but I certainly have a feeling that I have to then think about or shake off. So I wanted to share a few of those. Like I felt regarding the Clue. First one I'm going to offer is actually a feeling that I brought on myself. I felt bad about this, but I've certainly felt the sting of it as well too, and that's the feeling of betrayal. That when someone really turns around and messes with you, that doesn't always feel good. Some games are meant to be that way, but almost always, if you didn't see it coming and you weren't planning on it, it feels real bad, which more and more, when I play a game where someone making a deal and then turning around and screwing me is part of what the game can do, I'm not interested in playing it. But an experience I had where I did have that happen was in a game of Dead of Winter. Now, if you haven't played Dead of Winter, it's a zombie-themed game, and it's marketed as semi-co-op because while it is a co-op experience, it does have the possibility that a player is a traitor, in which case they will intentionally tank the game because they win if everybody else loses. And I was the traitor one time in a game of Dead of Winter, and I tanked it for everybody else, and it felt horrible. Like, it just felt bad. And it really hampered my enjoyment of Dead of Winter generally, because the idea that I might be a traitor, or there might be a traitor in the midst in a game that's already a very hard co-op anyway, I didn't enjoy myself. I felt bad that I did it, but I was sort of playing, the game told me that's how I would win, and so I was playing to that motive, and maybe that was my mistake. But so the feeling of being betrayed or doing betraying is not something I enjoy in games. The second feel bad moment, the thing that makes me salty about a game, is when I have really, really bad luck. Now, I don't mind a little bit of bad luck. A little bit of bad luck, especially in a game that's driven by luck, is one thing. But if you have consistently against the odds die rolling, for example, over and over in the same game, or you just need one card of one color and a quarter of the deck is that color, and you draw 10 cards and none of them are that color, right? That sort of soul-crushing bad luck where the game just taunts you with the fact that you can't get the one thing you need. That can really leave a bad taste in your mouth. The thing for me that really did it was we have this game that I played a number of times called London Dread, which is the main gameplay portion of the game is a really interesting cooperative puzzle in which you're sort of racing in time to reveal clues and plan out your route and solve challenges, and then you resolve that plan not in real time, and then you get bonuses or penalties based on how well you did. And at the end of the game, when you go to face the final villain, all the bonuses that you got turn into dice that you get to roll to try to defeat the final villain. And the dice you're rolling are 2/3 blank and 1/3 hits. So basically you need 5s and 6s to hit. And the game is just kind of stingy with those dice. So it's really frustrating, and you get almost no rerolls or anything. So it's really frustrating to spend, an hour and a half working really hard to beat a thing, and then it just comes down to, you roll 8 dice, and if 4 of them show up with hits, you'll win. It was, we played it a few times, and once we got through the main campaign, I'm happy to not play it again because of that. It's very disappointing. That's London Dread. At one point, there was some conversation online with the designer that they were reworking the ending. I don't know what happened with that, but it'd be great if they did. So that's bad luck. It's the second way that I could end up feeling salty in a game or about a game. The third one goes back to player interaction, like the betrayal, where it's a player doing it to me. Another thing that feels real bad is when there's a game about doing things, and then the player interaction is about undoing those things the player has done. Now, my worst case of salty experience about this was in a playtest of a game, and as part of the playtest, my design partner Rob had noticed a way that the game allowed for players to just really pile on that kind of experience. And so he piled that on me to kind of highlight, because he knew me best. He didn't know the other people playtesting. So sort of piled on me all of the brutal things he could do all in one turn. And really just like his 3 cards he played undid like 5 turns of my work. And it felt really horrible. And it highlighted to the designers the fact that they had left these windows in a game that isn't really meant to work that way. But when you get to do something that undoes work someone else did, especially if the work they did took a lot longer to do than the thing you're undoing, that always feels really bad. A recent example for me, I played the game Periodic, a game of the elements, and one of the things that happens in there is you can take a turn where instead of doing a bunch of actions, you just do one action and you use it to get energy. But then you only get to do one action. So someone else could do a similar action and then take one of the energy you got. Now that's not a lot, but if you took the precise amount you needed to do something and they took the one you needed, that can really mess up your game. I've played other games in similar ways where it's really tight resource management, and then someone manages to take one of the resources you've very carefully curated, and it throws off your whole plan. That, for me, that's a real feel bad experience. So a game that undoes your work, I don't like that at all. The next one I wanted to talk about, this is perhaps the meanest one. When people in deck building games or deck construction games like Magic or Netrunner, there is a style of gameplay that's designed to keep the other person from playing the game. They're often called lock decks or control decks. And the idea is that your deck puts into play a set of things that prevents the other person from accomplishing anything. Now, ideally, your deck should do that in a way that you also make progress toward your goals. But since some of these games are time-based or work in some other way, just locking the other player down could be enough to really take away all the fun. In one example I have here is in Netrunner. One of the things that can happen to the corporation is a criminal stealing all their money. And if the criminal has the right set of tools in place, they can steal all your money, and then you can never get enough money to do anything. You can sort of save up your money. As soon as you have enough to do something, then they steal all your money again. And you basically spend your whole turn doing nothing, and you can't defend yourself, and it gets to be pretty intense. And it generally feels pretty bad if you don't know how to do it or aren't really ready for it. So yeah, the feel bad of getting hit with the control strategy in a game is really unpleasant. And then finally, the last of the salty experiences I wanted to share was, I guess I would call this fake salty. So the last experience I want to talk about would be the one of being blocked. And this could be intentional or could be accidental. The experience, so in a resource or a worker placement game where the main interaction between players is taking a thing or using a thing, one of the most common experiences people have is somebody else taking the space they really wanted. And different games make this more or less part of the game. In Agricola, it's a key part of the game that you have to expect that some of the spaces you want are going to get taken. Most worker placement games, that is the essential thing. I remember my particular most grievous experience of it in the last year was playing a game of Carpe Diem with my wife and mother-in-law and daughter, I think. And I had set myself up in a way that I needed one particular tile. And when we seeded the board in the last round, there was only one of those available, and my wife took it without even really needing it. Like, she just took it for, I think, the other side of the tile or to close off something. And like, she didn't really need it, and it wasn't helping her much. She just took it in lieu of taking something else. And it cost me like 7 points or something. It was a lot of points given the nature of that game. And I remember just going, "Oh, you did it on purpose!" And I was sort of fake mad. I wasn't really mad, and I just adjusted myself. But I was a little peeved that she took the spot the only thing I needed, and she definitely didn't need to take that one. In the same way, in Ticket to Ride, if you were to take a route just to block someone because you know they need it, it's a perfectly acceptable game strategy. But boy, it can make somebody feel real salty. So, lots of ways that games offer negative experiences rather than positive ones. But all of it is part and parcel in playing games. So what kinds of salty experiences have I left out? What are some game interactions that really get your blood boiling that weren't in part of what I listed here? Pop over to Board Game Geek Guild 3269 and let me know where I've forgotten something important or a crucial interaction that you've had that I've probably had too. Or, tell the story of your strongest memory of a grumpy moment you had in playing a game, or even a grumpy moment you gave to someone else. Again, all of that over on Board Game Geek Guild 3269. I haven't shared ways to get a hold of me. Brendan at rattleboxgames.com is the easiest way, or Wombat929 on Board Game Geek. I've been playing a lot of online games lately. If you want to seek me out on Board Game Arena or Boîte à Jeux, my username in both of those places is also Wombat929. Particularly Board Game Arena, I'm easy to get a hold of there and check it several times a day. Well, that's about it for me. I hope that you have a fun weekend of gaming coming up. I'm looking forward to playing some games tomorrow while my wife and daughter are at Stranger Con, the Stranger Things convention here in Chicago. In the meantime, I hope that your next walk is as pleasant as mine was. Thanks for joining me. Bye-bye.
Brought to you by Rattlebox Games.